Hello, good people. I am so glad that you came to this call. You have no idea how happy I am. Not because you coming to hear me talk and chat or whatever, but because you took the time to invest in your own life. You know, when we are presented with information that we're not familiar with, a lot of times people won't move on that information. And so just the fact that you came and are interested in finding out what trusts are and how you could use them to your benefit, that speaks volume of who you are inside and what your focus is at this stage in your life. And so I just want to thank you for coming on to the call. My name is Saacha Spade, and I'm also known as Saacha Spade. So don't be confused. I'm one and the same. And like I said, I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. We have a lot of information to cover today. So, you know, make sure that you are prepared to hear me, not only hear me, but that you are listening to what I say, because I don't think there's too many people that will give you this raw, real, and uncut truth like I'm about to do today. So relax, you know, chill out and just absorb the information, because I guarantee you something in this information is going to put a light bulb moment in your head so that you will understand that there are strategies in place, legal strategies that you can use that will help you to have a better quality of life. So before we dive into the information, I just have a couple of housekeeping matters that I want to take care of first. Get that out the way, and then we can go for what we know. First of all, replays for this teleseminar will be available later on today, and I'll try to leave it up at least 72 hours to give you a chance to listen again if you need to, because like I said, there's a lot of heavy content that I'm going to be talking about, and I do want you to truly understand what it is that I'm saying. This call will be, you know, somewhere around in the hour, hour and a half, somewhere like that. I'll try to keep it as short but effective as possible. I'm not going to rush. I'm going to take my time. I have an agenda, so I'm going to follow that agenda to make sure that I don't go in, all over the place, because if I don't establish an agenda, I'll start in one place and then I'll end up somewhere else, because I'm very passionate about freedom and anything that's going to help my folks be free. We can talk about it all day. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. The replays will be available later on today, so you can come back when everything is quiet and you can listen as well as absorb the information. Also, because I'm going to be going over a lot of information, please take notes. If you don't have the ability to take notes right now, come back, like I said, do the replay and really get your laptop or your notebook or your tablet or whatever, your phone, smartphone, whatever, and take notes on the things that stand out to you, because I am an educator at heart. I'm a teacher, and so I have to give you as much foundation as I possibly can today. All right. Also, I'll be answering a few questions that are submitted through the question box at the near end of this call. So if you have a question at any time, feel free to send it in. If I don't get to your question, you'll be given instructions on how to get it answered. And if you're not able to submit a question right now, you'll have my email address, so you can send me, what it is that you're curious about, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. I will try my best. Everything that I cover in this teleseminar is based on my independent research and experience, okay? And I'm saying that because people have, there's tons of information out here. Everybody has their own experience. Someone may have, come across information that gave them a different understanding. And if that's the case, if what I present is not the way that you understand, please keep an open mind and listen anyway. We all can only go off of what we know and what we have discovered to be truth. And so what I will share on here is information that I know to be true because I live it. All right. Also, everyone, hopefully, that's on this call has a genuine interest in improving the quality of their life. So, If you're on this call out of curiosity or just to see if what I have to say is the truth, or, to see what I have to say because you're sitting back, ready to criticize or judge me or whatever, please dismiss your energetic presence from this call because those of us who are here, because we want to truly accomplish great things in life, we don't resonate with that type of energy. We don't have time for anybody lurking out of curiosity or, just to, how folks are these days. So if you're on this call because of that reason and not because you have a genuine interest in making the quality of your life better, you can just go ahead and use the door, exit, close, whatever. Get off the call. Thanks in advance. All right. Also, if you're someone that I invited directly or you're a guest of a guest that I invited, I truly just want to welcome you to the call and tell you that I am extremely excited that you chose to come and listen. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're someone who wasn't invited and you just got this information, whatever way you got it, and you just on the call lurking, I have a few things that I want to read to you now before we begin. So let me go to that. All right. The information contained within this presentation is for educational purposes only. As with anything, please do your own research if you are unsure about whether or not to apply the strategies that will be covered during this teleseminar. This teleseminar is invitation only and is not open to the general public. So if you are someone who gained access to this teleseminar without affiliation to the host or the guests that were invited, all of the communication during this event is privileged, confidential, and private, and you are hereby given notice that you are now trespassing. Did you get that? You're trespassing. If you're here and you weren't invited, or you're not affiliated with someone that was invited, or whatever, and you're just here trying to, be a peekaboo on the wall, fly on the wall, whatever, you're trespassing. Use of the telephone, wire, internet, and or internet IP servers or other related facilities connected to this presentation is explicitly without prejudice, without implied or tacit consent, without recourse to addressee and addressor herein, and constitutes no knowing, intelligent, voluntary waiver, express or implied in law or fact waiver of rights of any nature at any time, and all such are explicitly and specifically private in nature between the intended parties and will be stringently enforced. All written material and attachments are private between the parties on this teleseminar, personal and confidential. They are also common law copyrighted work, product, and intellectual property of EnlightenedSoul.com, Enlighten Me LLC, and the Power Group, a private trust. No reproduction or possession of the same is permitted without the express written consent of the above-mentioned entities. Now, in essence, that says that however you on this call, I'm not waiving my rights to any silent contracts that may come as a result of using the internet, the telephone, or the servers, or wire, or video, whatever, okay? And everything that I present in here is my intellectual property through the Power Group Private Trust, Enlighten Me LLC, and EnlightenedSoul.com. And if you don't understand this and you take this information and I find out that you are marketing it and teaching it in the exact same format that I have provided it, I will come after you. So if you don't understand that statement, your attorney will be able to explain it to you, because I will come see you about it. All right. Now, I'm happy, got all that out the way. So now we can move on to the power of trust. First, we're going to start with what exactly is a trust, okay? A trust is an entity comprised of an agreement that spells out the rules that you want followed for property held in the trust for your beneficiaries. It also designates who is in charge of accessing the property. Basically, in layman's terms, what that says is a trust is an entity that people use who don't want to own the property on paper but want to retain control over it. Because there's so much liability that comes with ownership, and we'll get into that. You use a trust when you want to control the property, but according to public records, you're not the owner, all right? So a trust agreement has three parties to it. That's the trust creator, also known as the settlor or grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiaries. All right, you see how that it's two parties for the benefit of a third party. You see that circle? The trust, the trustee, the grantor, and then the beneficiaries. Now, the trust is created by the settlor, who transfers some or all of his or her property to the trust. The trustee is the man, woman entrusted to administer the affairs of the trust and maintain the property for the trust's beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are the ones who ultimately benefit off of the property held in the trust. So, for example, I own a house. My dad is the trustee of it. So I put the house in trust and put him as the trustee over it. Why? Because I trust him. Trust is keyword. I trust him. So he can maneuver and do what needs to be done. I could still live in that house if I wanted to, but if anything happened to me, that house would be in safekeeping for my children without any third-party intervention from anybody else. Now, if I don't protect what I have, then I leave it wide open, so my children won't automatically get it. You need to hear this. They won't automatically get it. Your heirs will not automatically get it. You have to protect what you have. So, put my house in a trust. My dad's a trustee of it. My children are the beneficiaries. All right. Now, like I said, that comes with all of the ownership liability, because when you have a trust, you can maneuver the same way you would if you own the property on paper, which means taxes, title, all of that. All of that goes from being in your name to being in the trust name. And it makes a hell of a difference by doing that. You just merely control it. So technically, there is no ownership there. And because I don't own it on paper, then my liability is gone. It's gone. All right? All right. So moving along. Statutory versus non-statutory. These are the foundations. This is the foundation of all trust in existence. All right? So there's two categories that all trusts fall into, and those two categories are statutory, which is regulated by statutory law, or non-statutory, which is regulated by common law. All right? Now, statutory trusts are like corporations and LLCs. They're established based on the laws or statutes created by the legislator of the state. Okay? So these type of trusts, they do carry financial benefits, and they do have advantages, such as you can get state tax exemption on certain types of property. But they are regulated and ultimately under the control of the state. What this means is that your trust agreement that consisted of two parties now has a third party who has the overall final say. So all of your transactions through that trust in commerce are regulated and monitored and in public record and open to everybody, because the third party is the state. So it's just like a marriage. When you get married in front of a preacher who says, the power invested in me, the power invested in me that he's talking about is not God, it's the state that licensed him. Okay? And when you do that and you merge with another person, then the state is actually, that trinity consists of you two and the state, which is why you have to get permission to get divorced. You have to file paperwork. They can come and tell you, how you have to file your taxes, blah, 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 what you need to do, all of that. They're the third party, okay, because you apply for a license. That's a whole nother ball game. So with the trust, if you have a trust that's statutory, that means the state is involved in it. You created it based on the laws of the state, and you maneuver in it and through it, being regulated by the state. Also, aside from being under the state's jurisdiction, when you place your property in a statutory trust, you are open to infiltration through levies, seizure, property seizure. If a tax agency makes a claim against the person who established the trust or against the trust itself. So, for instance, before I put my house in trust, if I owed taxes, personal taxes, business taxes, whatever taxes, anywhere that I wasn't protected, okay, even if I had another statutory trust, whatever that I owed taxes on, or the statutory trust that I was putting my house in had taxes that needed to be paid. I put my property in that trust because the state is the third party. If any type of claim comes where they say I owe them, then they could seize my property that's in the trust. It's not protected. It's not protected. So that's another thing about statutory trusts, is that they can be infiltrated, they can be breached through levies and seizure of your property. If the IRS, makes a claim against you or whatever, they can take what you have. Okay, keep in mind is that. Now, non-statutory trusts are not legal entities like corporations and LLCs. They are considered contractual organizations. So these trusts are created under equity and are based on your right to contract with another party privately without interference from a third party. They are based on common law of contracts, and they don't depend on any state legislator for their existence. So if I put my house in a non-statutory trust, which is what it's in, and someone makes a claim against me because the non-statutory trust is not affiliated with any state regulation, okay, nobody can touch it. It's a private trust, so they wouldn't even be able to find out who the trustee is. And if they did try to find out who the trustee is or find out who the trustee is, he wouldn't be obligated to entertain them on any level. Why? Because it's not regulated under the state. Now, generally, these type of trusts cannot be regulated, and most state laws have no legal authority over them. Now, I say generally because you need to understand that if you do something through the trust that is subject to state regulatory control, the state could step in, i.e., you have a truck, you're hauling stuff, you have some waste. Let's say you have some waste, and your truck is property of the trust, but you have some waste. And then you go to the ocean or to the beach or to the lake, and you start dumping all of that waste into the water. Well, you can't get away with that just because the truck is owned by the trust. They can step in and do what they need to do. Why? Because you breached an area that was regulated by them. Okay? Are we all on the same page? All right. Now, these trusts are not bound by laws that control corporations or public policy. They are private. You don't have to open your records to anyone unless you're ordered to do so by a warrant from an appropriate court. Okay? Which the chances of that, you would really have to be messing up. And I mean for real. I'm not talking about owing nobody. I'm not talking none. I'm talking about you really have to be messing up if you got a warrant from a court that wanted to breach your private trust. And they would have to go through a lengthy process to do so. But nevertheless, you must be doing something really off the hook for them to come with a warrant to see your private trust. All right. Now, let's move on to what are trusts used for. Trusts are primarily used for 4 reasons, okay? Protection of assets, generational preservation of assets, business purposes, and privacy. That's generally what trusts are used for. One of those 4 reasons, okay? Protection of assets. Many people want whatever it is that you have. There's a whole lot of people out here looking for ways to take what you have from you. There are law firms that sit back and conduct research to see who and what companies are the most profitable to sue. If someone wanted to put a claim against you, the attorney would get on the computer and within 2-3 minutes be able to pull up everything that you have anywhere under your social that you're affiliated with, whatever, in 2-3 minutes. And a lot of times that's how they determine whether or not they're going to sue you. They look at what you have before they go through the steps to file paperwork, okay? Now, lawsuits are on the rise like never before. I mean, everybody's getting sued by somebody, especially in California. And the system is passing laws to make everything that we do wrong in one manner or another. So seizing property, levying accounts, all that stuff is a norm now. So if you have anything worth taking, eventually someone's going to come after you for it. That's just a reality that we're in right now. It's not to scare you, it's just to make you aware. So if you have anything that's in your Social Security number, eventually someone's going to come and take it. And I mean even EINs that are generated through the IRS for your businesses. You generated that EIN from your Social Security number, so it's attached to you. Generational preservation of assets. A trust makes it much, much, much easier to pass down your assets to your heirs. Because, like if you had a will, for example, you got to go through probate and all of that stuff. And through inheritance, there are inheritance taxes that are applied to the property that you're passing on. So you're gone, and the IRS is going to hit whatever it is that you're trying to pass with an inheritance tax or a gift tax because you're passing it on through a will. So you go through probate and all that stuff with wills. Now, if you set your property in a properly organized trust, the trust becomes the owner, which means that the owner never dies because trusts, they have no expiration date, not non-statutory trusts. They live forever. Statutory trusts do have an expiration date, okay? Now, that is why you want to make sure that for your agenda and for what you need, you have the right trust set up. Because something happens to you and your property isn't in the right trust, the state can still possibly step in and do what needs to be do what needs to be done to you. Okay? All right. You can also conduct business from a trust that is structured to allow it. And there are privacy advantages, freedom from state regulation, separation of personal assets from business assets, and the officers are shielded from the liabilities of the business unless there is fraud or wrongful death. It carries the same benefit similar to a corporate veil. All right? So you can do business through a trust. You know, my suggestion is set up a lesser entity to operate through, like a New Mexico LLC, because that's basically the only private entity regulated by the state still left in our country here. So keep that in mind, all right? And you don't have to be doing business in New Mexico for that to use it, okay? You can use it and then still be afforded the same privacy if you take it and do business elsewhere. Lastly, privacy. Privacy is big for me. I mean, and it should be big for you, but if it's not, you know, maybe it will be by the end of this seminar. Non-statutory trusts, they give you the ultimate privacy. I mean, mainly because the components of the trust are not public record like a statutory entity, you know, such as a statutory trust, a corporation, and most LLCs, except for the New Mexico LLC. And so when the public can get to your records, then that leaves you open for, you don't know who's viewing it, you don't know what agenda or motive or whatever they have when they approach you because all your business is out there. So privacy is big. And non-statutory trusts, they provide that privacy because they're private. You know, they're between you and the individual that you did the trust agreement with, which is the trustee. That's it. Everything inside of your trust agreement is private, and the only people that know the details of the trust are the settlor and the trustee. That's it. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to revocable versus irrevocable. So we dealt with statutory and non-statutory to tell you what the foundations of each trust are. They're either regulated by the state or they're regulated by you. Okay? Now, revocable and irrevocable is the type of trust. There are two groups of trust that all the trusts, they fall in either one of these two groups, revocable or irrevocable. Okay. Now, revocable means that the trust can be dissolved. And when that happens, the property in the trust goes back to the creator of the trust. So if I put my house in a revocable trust, then once that expiration date hits on that revocable trust, the property would come back to me and it would be back in my name. Okay. These type of trusts don't provide much protection because the property is not stable. It means that, you know, you have it over here for a minute. You don't really know what you want to do with it. You're probably going to take it back and do something else with it. And so a lot of times the government, the powers that be, whoever, they look at this as the settlor has a DBA because it's a temporary transfer of the property. So they know that it's not stable. If it's in a revocable trust, it can be tampered with. It can be transferred. Okay? Now, irrevocable trusts, they are the strongest for protection. Okay? These trusts are considered a separate person from the settlor. They don't have any expiration date unless some type of event occurs as specified in the trust documents that requires it to be terminated. So most of the time, irrevocable trusts, they go on and on and on. As long as there is an own, they will be in existence. And that's the type of trust that I primarily have been exposed to. I have never seen an irrevocable trust that had a clause as to when it was to be dissolved. When you transfer property into an irrevocable trust, though, you need to understand, there is no taking it out. It's permanently positioned there. So it becomes the property of that trust. Now, because you control that trust, that's cool. You don't have to worry about someone else coming in. It's not someone else that owns your property. You put your property in trust for the purposes of ownership on paper. Okay? This is why your assets are so secure, because if a claim is made against you, the property is untouchable. Why? Because once it gets to an irrevocable trust, it can't be messed with. All right? Now, that doesn't mean that you use the irrevocable trust trying to evade your responsibilities, meaning, okay, you owe $20,000 in taxes. And instead of paying the IRS, what you decide to do is put your house in an irrevocable trust. Now, in that case, someone can come after you because from the intent and the maneuver, you knew you had an outstanding bill on that property, but you chose, instead of paying that bill, to put it in a vehicle or in the safekeeping of an entity that they wouldn't be able to collect their money. That's a whole different thing. So be aware of that. If you owe someone and you want to transfer your property into a trust, pay them. Pay what you owe. Work it out. You can still transfer your property, but don't make it look like you're trying to run from your responsibility. Okay? So revocable is a temporary house. It's the weakest for protection. The property is touchable. It has a termination date. The legal equity title is split. And you're operating through it based on privilege, where irrevocable trust, it's a permanent house, strongest for protection. Your property is untouchable. It lasts forever. The legal and the equity title are joined, and it's based on your rights to contract with who you want to contract with in a private manner. These are the different flavors of trust. There's living trust, there's family trust, there's business trust, blind trust, real estate investment trust, charitable trust, express trust, asset protection trust, implied trust, irrevocable trust, spendthrift trust, tax bypass trust, generational preservation of assets trust. Now, all the ones you see that are in that yellowish, goldish color, those are all the ones that I deal with. Everything else is statutory. Okay? All right. Why is this so important? Well, a few reasons, obviously. There's a saying by a man named George Santayana, which says, those who can't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And what that means is, things that happened in the past, if you don't learn from them, they're coming around again. And so the information that I'm giving you today is really, really, really important, because right now we are going through a pivotal transition where privacy is being stripped at an alarming rate. And the ultimate objective of the powers to be is to take everything that you have, including you. Now, that is not to say that this will be accomplished, but it is what the agenda is. And you're saying, well, how could they take me? Okay, we'll get to that. So this is important because there's privacy restoration that needs to take place. You have protection from attack, restoration of your rights. It shifts your personal liability away from you. There's tax benefits that are phenomenal. You have more security when you're banking with the Federal Reserve. Freedom from third-party attack. You're disconnected from all of the silent contracts that come with all of the things that we do on a daily basis that we have no idea we're entering into silent contracts attached to those things. And then there's stabilization for your dependents, which is really, really, really important, because you don't want to leave your dependents just assed out, excuse my language. You don't want to leave them like that. You want to do everything that you can to protect them. And so this helps you accomplish that. Also, you have the ability to maneuver without being tracked. Okay? Keep that in mind. And anything that you do as an individual, you know, with your social security number, driver's license, all the stuff that you do as an individual, you can do it with the trust. But the liability factor is gone. So, how does the wealthy people maneuver? How do they maneuver? Well, the orchestrators of this system handle all their business, their real business, behind trust. This is why we can only follow the breadcrumbs so far. When I say breadcrumbs, I'm talking about the money trail. We can only follow the breadcrumbs so far before they disappear into the night. They generate millions and billions of dollars through corporations, nonprofits, charities, you know, LLCs and all that, that are ultimately owned by trust. Once their corporate accounts, nonprofit, charity accounts, LLCs, whatever, reach a certain amount from maintaining the business, all the profits, they transfer them into the trust. Why? Because A, you can't track their activities no longer from that point. B, they cease to exist in the public eye. And C, can't nobody take the money from them. So they do all of their lower level work, and then they transfer the money into a properly constructed trust. Now, every time I turn around, somebody is saying, you can't beat the system. And that saying is highly disturbing to me, because there are people who beat it every day. Now, if you go against the system, no, you can't beat it, because it is a beast. And it's so interwoven in every single thing that we do. So fighting the system hurts you more than it hurts the system. Please understand this. Every time you fight the system, it gets stronger. It reinforces itself in some manner. All right? Some manner. So when you call yourself fighting it, you're ultimately hurting yourself. All right? Especially because of how large it is. So, it hurts you more than it hurts the system. Now, I really wish that we would open up our mind just a little more and realize that these heavy hitters and players in this system, they're able to do what they do, not because the system is on their side, per se, or not because they're on the system side, but, because the system is neutral. Let's just put that out there. The system is neutral. It's designed a certain way, and you get out of it what you choose to get out of it, no matter what it is. So if your focus is on lack, meaning lack of opportunity, lack of money, lack of freedom, lack of love, all of those things, then you will always zoom in on any and everything that is connected to lack. People think there is a lack of money. Now, that's untrue. It's not only untrue, it's absolutely absurd. There is plenty of money all around us at any given moment of the day, but if you're focused on lack, you won't see it. You will not see it. So it's not that the system is wrong or right. It's our focus and perception about the system that makes all the difference in whether or not it works for us. The system is a control mechanism, and that is what it is designed for, to control. Now, you could feel some type of way about that, but let me explain. There are masses of people, billions of people on this planet, who we all have different mindsets, we all have different thoughts, different perceptions, objectives, goals, principles, values, intentions, and all of that, purposes, all of that. So the only thing that the system can do is reinforce itself as a control mechanism and establish a flow that you have to maintain. Okay? It's designed for control. So it's trying to make sure that it controls all these different manifestations of Creator that we all are. We're all a different manifestation of the Most High. And we come here all with an individual life experience. So the system is there to make sure that everything stays uniformed, which ultimately means control. But with that being said, now, if you are someone and you know that you are free, the moves that you make in your life are lined up with being a free man or a free woman. You find out the rules of the system that are created for people who are free, and then you use those rules to your benefit. There are two sets of rules in this matrix, okay? There's rules for the self-governed, and there's rules for the system-governed. Now, the system hurts most for those that don't control or govern themselves. So if you don't govern yourself, then you fall into the category of needing to be governed. If you don't think for yourself, then you fall into the category of someone needing to tell you what to do, what to think. Okay? So self-governing, there is a set of rules in this system for those that are self-governed. And those that are in position and power who set these rules up, they don't follow the rules for those that need to be governed. They follow the rules for those that are self-masters. Okay, so you got to have a certain mindset to see that. The only people or person that is keeping you down is yourself. It's you. Ain't nobody else. I know this is debatable. At the end of the day, knowledge of self is the most powerful thing that you can have. And once you awaken to the I am inside of you, what Obama is doing won't even matter to you, because Obama doesn't determine what goes on in your life. You are your own master, and your word is your law. So you maneuver in a way that says that you're free, and everything in your life starts to line up with that. But if you are looking to politicians, you're looking at what the bankers are doing, you're looking over here, you're mad about this, all of those things, that's because you're looking to them to govern you. And you're mad because they're not being fair with you. They're not supposed to be fair with you. You are here to govern yourself. So govern yourself. Then what they're doing won't even matter to you. All right. So, all right. Now, I know that I threw my own little insight in there, and I wanna get back on track. I'll tell you a story of a super wealthy man who was able to beat the system using the rules that are set up for those that are free or self-governed. His name was Hassie L. Hunt, also known as H.L. Hunt. Okay? He was a famous oil man here in Dallas, and when he died in 1974, he was known as the world's richest man. On record, he had the highest net worth. If you've ever watched that show or heard of that show called Dallas, the character J.R. Ewing is based on Hassie L. Hunt. Okay. Now, this man, he was a mess. He had 15 children by 3 wives. Now, 2 of his wives he got married to at the same time. So he was, married to 2 women at the same time. One of the wives that he was married to, when he got married to her, he used a fake name. I think it was Franklin Hunt instead of Hassie Hunt or something like that. And so when she found out that he already had a wife, what he did, he didn't go to jail. He used the law. He settled privately with her. And then he opened up 4 trust accounts for the 4 children that he had with her, and he took care of her and them. That was his way of, dealing with it. So there was a private arrangement between him and the woman that he did this to. And the children were set for life, and she was set for life. Now, when he died, all of his children went on to accomplish great things. One of his sons, Lamar, co-founded the American Football League and is the creator of the Super Bowl. All right? Right. Not only that, but Lamar also co-founded the North American Soccer League. And he's the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's one of his sons. 2 of his other children, William and Bunker, they went on and purchased the majority of the world's silver. And they own more silver than any government in the world before they got cracked. They got cracked because they were monopolizing the market. And so, of course, the powers that be came after them. But they just got penalized, but they weren't imprisoned. All right. His daughter, Margaret, was also the co-owner of Hunt Petroleum before she passed away. Then he has another daughter named Caroline, who's the founder and honorary chairman of Rosewood Hotels and Resorts. Now, he has other children, and they all have great accomplishment, but for time's sake, I won't go into that. Okay, I just wanted you to get a feel for what type of family this is. So, back to H.L. Hunt. He died in 1974, all right, as the man with the highest net worth. But the only, and I repeat, only asset he owned in his name when he died was a 1974 Chevy pickup worth $2,500. That is it. Okay? Meaning, when they ran his Social Security number to track everything that he owned, he only owned a new truck. That was it. His total worth could be guesstimated only between $2 and $8 billion, but they couldn't find out exactly how much he was worth or how much he had because everything he had wasn't connected to his name. It was put up in different trusts. So now The federal gift and estate tax in 1974 was structured to take 77% of all personal property valued $10 million or more. Okay? That's 77%. That's 3/4. So just off of him and what they calculated that he probably had, but they couldn't tell for sure, the IRS would have cashed in on about $2,300,000 off of his assets if he had owned that wealth in his name and they were able to track it in his Social Security number. Since he had it all in numerous trusts, they couldn't gain access to any of it, and the money went on to his heirs, who were able to maximize their life when they got old enough to take control. Moral of the story is this: the secret of wealth is not ownership, it is control. And that is what I'm trying to drive home today. Many of us, we're quick to say, oh, I own a house, oh, I own a car. But the thing is, you don't really understand that. First of all, about the house thing, if you're paying a mortgage, no, you don't own the house. The bank owns the house. You're paying the mortgage. If you own the house, you wouldn't be making no note, okay? But not only that, there are silent contracts behind those titles and deeds. So if you're paying taxes, technically, still have a third party that can sue you for those taxes. So you really don't own that house. It's in your Social Security number. Okay? You don't really own it. Please understand, the secret of wealth is not ownership. It is control. Most of us are so focused on owning something. Now, we don't realize that we don't own nothing. If somebody can come and take it from us. That's not ownership. That's what I call lease until deceased. Okay? Meaning you're paying something for occupying. But when you transition out of here, it's up for grabs. Okay? Now, let me add one more thing about Mr. Hunt. Okay? He was educated at home. He was homeschooled. All right? Now, he was very sharp with math, but he was also a real gambler, for real. And when his cotton plantation that he ran in Arkansas flooded and destroyed all of his crops, he tapped into his gambling side, and he took his last $100 and turned it into over $100,000. Now, on the flip side of that, he was a really generous person to those that worked for him, and because of that, they were loyal to him. Well, that loyalty caused him to hear some rumors of an oil field in East Texas that was discovered by a man who was shady. Basically, he was real shady. His name was Dad Joyner, and he was able to hear about the opportunity because he took care of his employees and they were loyal to him. So that opportunity came through rumors. He heard about it. He met with Dan Joyner over cheese and crackers at the Alfonso Hotel in Dallas. Okay? Well, Joyner was willing to give him the title to the field, but Joyner had did a lot of fraud to get the title. So it wasn't, Joyner didn't get the title on an up-and-up situation. He committed a lot of fraud and manipulation to get that title. Once he got the title, he was willing to give it over to Hunt. Mr. Hunt was like, okay, he knew that he was shady, but he used the law to work for him. So he paid Joyner $1 million. Then he found a way to protect him from the liability of the fraud that was connected to him having that title. Okay? He found a way to use the law to work for him. Now, I shared that because some of us judge everything and everybody so much that if it were us, we wouldn't have recognized how to make that situation work for us like he did. Soon as somebody says someone is shady or whatever, we immediately block dealing with or even investigating the opportunity because of being high and mighty and not understanding how the universe works. If he wouldn't have recognized that opportunity, he wouldn't have become the richest man in the world. And his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on wouldn't have been able to be their best. Make it work for you is what I'm saying. It doesn't always come packaged the way that you feel that it should come. But it is up to you to recognize how to use it for your advantage instead of discrediting it due to some issue from judging. We always pray for help or want to get ahead in life. But then we spend so much time judging everything and everybody that we miss out a lot of times. There's plenty of opportunities that come our way to move us forward, but we allow our ego to talk us right out of moving forward by constantly creating judgments and justifications as to why we can't do it, whether it's I don't have the money for it, or I don't think that it will work for me, or whatever it is. Look, listen to me closely. If the universe allows it to come your way and you attract it into your life, there is a message, possibility, or an opportunity in it for your higher good. In everything. Don't throw it out because of what you think. Because a lot of times we pray for help and the help comes and we don't even have the ability to recognize it, and then we're still asking God, why aren't you not helping me? And that opportunity has came and gone 3, 4, 5 times, and we still sitting somewhere looking stuck on stupid. Okay, that's enough preaching. Back to the topic. Now, I could take it even a step further than Mr. Hunt when I say, how do the wealthy maneuver? Okay? Now, during the early 1900s, the monetary system before the Federal Reserve had run its course. You know, almost same scenario as now. The people were finding out that there were a small group of bankers profiting off of everybody and abusing the public trust. So, ironically, this system was called the money trust. Now notice, trust is attached to that name. Under this trust, there were over $22 billion in resources and capital, all controlled through, get this, 341 directorships held in 112 corporations by members of the empire. And the head of it was J.P. Morgan. Yep, that's right. Chase Bank's founder, J.P. Morgan. Now, some of the other bankers in this small group were Paul Warburg, Jacob Schiff, Felix Warburg, Frank Peabody, William Rockefeller, and Benjamin Strong, Jr., just to name a few. All right. So once things hit the fan and the agenda was exposed, an entire new agenda had to be implemented, not only to control the money, but this time the people as well. So during the reign of the money trust, people still transacted in silver and gold. And so the bankers didn't have full control over their money because banking was not a mandatory component. And they couldn't capitalize on gold and silver or make it exclusively come from them as if they owned it. They couldn't corner it like that. So they needed another way to gain access to that as well. Also, the banks were independently ran and operated. So the money trust, it didn't have any control over the individual banks like it is today with the Federal Reserve. That created a problem for the small group of bankers who were capitalizing off of the public behind the money trust because they wanted control over everything. So with this problem, they created their own solution. What was the solution? They crashed the economy. Through a series of sinister, and I mean sinister power moves, these bankers orchestrated a full economic collapse known as the Great Depression. And that Great Depression started in 1929 and ended in 1933. 20 years before the end of the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law. That was in 1913 as the solution to the money trust issue. But the same men who were behind the money trust were behind the Federal Reserve Act, even though the public thought differently. So they created this entire stage show with politicians opposing it and some supporting it and whatever, supposedly making it look as if it wasn't the same as the former system. But that was just to feed the illusion. In fact, they drafted the first version of the Federal Reserve Act so that the public would approve of it, but they already had planned to modify it once it was brought in as official. So they created a whirlwind of chaos so that the Federal Reserve Act could move from an act to an actuality. The economic collapse crashed the entire economy, and at that time, a bogus law, primarily one being HJR, House Joint Resolution 192, was implemented by Franklin Roosevelt, which made it illegal for the citizens to hold on to their real money, the gold. So they were forced to surrender all but a small amount of their gold in exchange for the paper money. The paper money is what the Federal Reserve owned, and that was what they wanted to do. They wanted to own the money that the people use, own the banks, own everything, okay? See how that went? So many of the banks that were set up at that time, they didn't make it through the Great Depression. And the banks who did, and the ones that came in after them wanted to do business, they had to submit to being regulated by the Federal Reserve Act, which Federal Reserve set up a district of 12 banks across the country to govern each area that they're positioned in. Now, throughout that entire fiasco, they managed to gain control over the money. The people and the politicians were now officially on their payroll. So they gained control over the money, they gained control over the people, and the politicians who were now officially on the payroll helped them to accomplish all of this. So in the words of Mayor Amschel Rothschild, give me control over a country's money, and I care not who creates their laws. It don't matter, because if I have control over the money, then I control everything, okay? So this move put them in position so they could continuously penalize the citizens for any and everything, which opened up a never-ending funnel of profit for the bankers and for their future generations. Not only did they straight out commit strong armed robbery against the citizens for their gold, but get this, the people themselves now were being used as collateral from 1933 on. Collateral for what? Collateral to back the loan that the same bankers who crashed the economy gave to the United States to put the country back on its feet. So the bankers who collapsed the economy through their agenda came in and said, we'll give you a loan to get back on your feet, but we need ownership. You need you to use the citizens as collateral to back this loan. Now, make sure you understand this. You are collateral for the loan that was given to restore this country in 1933. How did they turn you into collateral? They did it through the issuance of birth certificates. By issuing birth certificates, they have obtained the title to your physical body. That's why the baby's footprints is put on the original birth certificates, which you can never get back the original, by the way. All right. They take that birth certificate, they obtain a loan from the bankers against the child for up to $1 million. So the government gets a loan from the bankers every time a child is born, and they are provided with the birth certificate for up to $1 million. It's between $650,000 to $1 million. Then they turn that loan into a bond, okay? And then they place that bond on Wall Street, on the market. Then the birth certificate allows them to have proof that there is an actual piece of property, i.e. you or your children, securing or backing this loan, and they determine the amount of the loan based on the probable energetic contribution that that child will generate over its lifespan, okay? So they see how much you're worth, okay? And there's this long form that they fill out at the hospitals. That's a whole other topic, okay? But anyway, then they pair that birth certificate with a Social Security number, which they implemented through what was known as the Maternity Act around the same time. And the Social Security number monitors all the child's financial transactions in commerce every day that the child is alive, which is why you can never get rid of your Social Security number. It's assigned to you, but I'll go into that in a minute. Based on those financial transactions, they determine how much tax is owed, and those taxes being paid by that once a child, now an adult, pay back the loan that the government took out against the child when it was approximately 2 weeks old. Now, this is not conspiracy. This is true. This is a real deal. All right? So basically the taxes that you're paying pay back the loan that they took against you when you were 2 weeks old. That's layman's terms. Now, Why did I tell you that? Well, the birth certificate coupled with the Social Security number creates what is known as a Sesty Q trust. By having this type of trust, as the owner of each citizen, it gives them the ability to control the citizen from behind the scenes without their knowledge. Sesty Q trust. Okay? I also must add that all of this was done voluntarily with the consent of those who are not self-governed. Birth certificates are not mandatory. Social Security numbers are not mandatory. And those who are in power, they don't have any of this stuff. Now, if they did have it, they extinguished the contract just like I did so that they could be free. But that's a whole other topic for another time. Everything that they did was a voluntary move from the parents who did not know because they thought that it was a normal situation. They did it, got birth certificate and Social Security number for their children. Their parents got birth certificate and Social Security number for them. So that's all they know. Nobody stopped to do the research to find out what that birth certificate was for, what that Social Security number was for. So you see, everything is about trust. Even our citizenship, that all capital letters name on your driver's license and Social Security card and debit card and library card and concealed weapons license and phone bill and bank statement, that's a trust. That ain't you. But all this time you probably thought it was you because it has your name. Now I'm pretty sure you don't spell your name or write your name in all capital letters, do you? So why would it appear that way on your identifiers? It's because you were duplicated through the creation of a fictitious entity, okay? You were duplicated, recreated. That fictitious entity was created to monitor all of your financial transactions and your every move. So it's a silent tracking device. They ain't got to watch you. They just got to watch your Social Security number, find out what you're doing. Your flesh and blood name was taken, and the state recreated you as a fiction and then merged your flesh and blood body with the fiction so that you would start believing that the fiction was you and start believing in the illusion. You are who you are before you got a birth certificate. Your life is proof that you were born. So birth certificate is not proof that you were born. You standing in front of me is proof that you were born. Okay? There's no need to prove that you were born. Your life says that. So think deeper. Think deeper. There's a reason for everything that we use and do in the system. And the key is to be aware so that you can make it work for you instead of it working against you. I mean, at 2 weeks old, you had $1 million in debt. There's no way that you can catch up to that unless you use the system to work for you. They had a very large head start on you. Please understand that. So you must protect yourself. Now, everything, and I do mean everything that you purchase under that Social Security number actually belongs to the state because that 9-digit number, which is also a CUSIP, CUSIP number, is their creation, not yours. On your Social Security card, it tells you that this number has been established for your all capital letters name. It does not say anywhere that the number belongs to you or that the number is your property. In fact, on the back of the card, if you look on the back of the card, there are penalties for people who wrongfully use it, even you. It also says that it is the property of the Social Security Administration. Now, if it was your number, it would be your property. It's not your property. It's not your number. It was established for you. But the kicker, guess who owns the Social Security Administration? Queen Elizabeth does. So this all ties back to England. Okay? All right. So this is why the information is so important. Anything that you think you have, you really don't have it. You're just using it as long as you allow the CESIQ trust that they own to own your property. So while you are using it and have possession of it, because possession is 9/10 of the law, y'all, the smart thing to do is to transfer title to a trust that you are creator over so that your trust can own it. Otherwise, One day when the economy collapses, and it will, and the bankers want payment for the loan that they gave this country for you and your children and your grandchildren, you, your children, and what you thought was your property are a part of the collateral that they will want to collect on. And if you have not taken control and become the master over your own affairs, they will. They will do just that. So please, please, please take control over your life. It's just not wise to be left out here like this, okay? It's very honorable to be the master over your own affairs because we were not created to be slaves. And that's what many of us have been reduced to. And it's sad, but very true. Many of us have allowed ourselves to be reduced to that. We complain about going to work. We complain about this. We complain about feeling like a slave. But we continually make choices that are slave-minded. Some of us don't have a plan to leave anything for our future generations. And because of that, we don't know about the strategies that are being used against us every day and the ones that are going to bite them if something happens to us. Just like they position themselves to take care of their heirs, you should be doing the same thing, period. There is no shortage of resources or money. Look in the sky. Look at the grass. Look at the trees, the ocean, and all around you. Everywhere Creator is showing us that we are in an abundant place, but because of erroneous programming and being reduced down to using our life force energy to work for someone else's agenda, we don't recognize abundance. We constantly calculate lack. Constantly. Okay. Now, another point that I have not laid out is this. Which trust do you think the super wealthy use for their ultimate security? They may play with statutory trust at lower levels, but their real wealth is held in non-statutory trust, held outside of the state's jurisdiction. Why is this? For all the reasons that I stated earlier. Privacy, generational preservation of wealth, asset protection, and to conduct business. Other reasons I stated were the high level of litigation that's currently going on, the ability to seize assets and levy your accounts. And if a claim is brought against the settlor, the property in the trust can be taken. That's why they use these type of trusts. They know. Now, these people have very well paid attorneys who study and practice statutory law. And these attorneys generate money by creating wills and statutory trusts and then naming themselves as the administrators or the executor over the estate of their clients. And they get paid a lot of money to do this. I strongly believe that many attorneys are fully aware of the strength of non-statutory trusts, but because there isn't as much benefit in them as statutory trusts, because there is no room in there for them to control them, so many will even deny that they are real. Wills and statutory trusts are valuable in their own way, but it depends on your agenda. A will is better than having nothing. A statutory trust, also known as inter vivos trust, living trust, and other names, they have a primary benefit of avoidance of probate and inheritance taxes, and if no business interests are connected, then that statutory trust may be the best way to go for your circumstances. However, the non-statutory trust has all the advantages of a will and a trust, plus additional benefits not possible anywhere else, okay? And these type of trusts are always irrevocable, meaning they are for permanent security of the property attached to them. Okay, so I know you're wondering by now, how do I know all this information? Well, I'm a soul coach, an author, a soulpreneur, and a managing partner in a private investment group, and a few other things as well. But I am also a freedom consultant or coach, whatever you want to call it. And I live for freedom. I'm very passionate about helping others be free, which is something that I've been doing for the last almost 6 years on a consistent basis. As a freedom consultant, I deal with citizenship, private trust, precious metals, private banking, offshore advantages, and anything else having to do with empowering people to protect themselves. That's something that I deal with. That's something that I know. That's something that I live. Okay. After walking through my own path of freedom and being officially recognized as a secure party, and there is a difference, I began using these trusts, making sure they worked, and then creating these type of trusts for my clients. And up until today, according to my external hard drives, I've created over 3,000 of these trusts, and I've assisted over 1,000 people with reclaiming their sovereign statuses. This is just in 6 years, okay? And it has been wonderful and fulfilling for me. And I have witnessed a lot of people's lives change for the better on all levels. Freedom is my fire, period. So in everything that I do, freedom is the foundation. Now, I do believe with everything in me that soul sovereignty is the ultimate freedom, because by unleashing your soul and stepping into the power of I am, you recognize that you are creating this experience, and that awareness and inner power projects and reflects in your world on every level. However, reaching that level is a process, and most of the people that I encounter and see day to day are not at that point yet. They want to be free, but their physical experience is a struggle with money, and that's what they're mostly focused on. So I understand that. I truly do. And what I can say personally is that when you take steps to free yourself on the lower levels, meaning the physical levels, meaning the physical freedoms, meaning sovereignty and things like that, you take those steps, it begins to awaken you on higher levels. Proclaiming your sovereignty, moving and transacting in the way that you were put here to do, claiming your rights and moving in those, okay, being a master over your own affair, that's a decision that causes your entire life to start lining up with that proclamation. It's all about what you believe. Everything is about what you believe. That changes your world, what you believe. Then after you believe it, you end up knowing it because it becomes truth and it confirms itself. Then when you believe that you are free, you make moves in your life that are aligned with being a free man or a free woman. And that is how you manifest your freedom. This is how everything works. We don't see it to believe it. We believe it to see it. Okay? Now I need you to think about that. So if you're thinking slave-minded, you're going to continue to make slave-minded decisions. If you're thinking and saying, no, I'm free, you could be free right this minute. It's a mindset. It's a choice. You tell yourself you're free because you are creating this experience. And the universe has to line itself up with whatever it is that you determine is truth. Okay? So making this type of move, such as establishing a trust based on your right to be free, it opens up the door for greater opportunities for freedom to be attracted in your life because you are preparing for them. Not only that, but people who take steps like this are normally people who value their freedom and their privacy, and they want to be in control over their own affairs. They don't need nobody else telling them what they need to do and what they don't need to do. They're fully aware of that, and they have the capability to make those decisions. Okay? And some of you may not be even there yet, and I understand that not everyone is ready for this level because statutory life is what is most prevalent, and most people are programmed to transact in it. And regardless of how much it is designed to control you, most people are comfortable there. They rather talk about what's wrong with the statutory law, the law ain't fair, blah, 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 than for the law not to apply to them altogether. I can't do that. That don't apply to me. Those laws don't apply to me because I govern myself. This is my mind. So that's it. We've covered a lot of information. I pray that you were enlightened, informed, and educated on this call. I'm sure some of you have specific questions we didn't get to and the time has ran out because I've been talking. So please send me an email at info@enlightenedsoul, that's INLIGHTENED, soul.com, and I will answer your question within 24 hours. Thank you for coming. Don't forget to download your free gifts and sign up for Cover Your Assets. Don't get caught with your pants down, all right? Don't do it, y'all. I love you, and I will hopefully hear from you really, really soon. Blessings to you. I'm signing off. Take care.